Kristara Laksmi-Ditton, and I have to do my last kind of coverage from the Waimea Film Festival from the car. I checked my, connection and how is the connectivity here with the phone, and it's really bad. So I'm not gonna even try to do a live because it's gonna be just pixels. So I'm just gonna pre-record this video and then post it, and then you can look at this later. So today, Waimea Film Festival was done for me. I picked out all the movies for today which I thought would be making sense for me, inspire me, and now I'm basically, after this video, heading back home to Kona. So but I got lots of inspiration from the last days, so I made lots of notes, so I want to share it with you guys. So it's kind of like you have traveled with me to all these different places. So Judi Dench, my passion for trees. So many of you maybe recognize her name. She is a British actress, and I always love movies where she is in, because she's just so cool and so humble and a very special lady. So she was basically telling a story of trees and got in some scientists and different people who were kind of, taking it into pieces, showing her what these different trees are like, biologically, ecologically, how it all hangs together, how they can, fight disease or whatever is kind of out there. So just trying to get some air, figure out the system. So that was a really lovely movie, and the message there is kind of the same. We are all amazing social creatures, as are the trees. We communicate with each other, and we can help each other in the time of need. So, which was the story of making kapa cloth. And I have been always interested in all kind of different ways of, getting to know how to do Hawaiian cultural things. And I had no idea that this kapa cloth making was so labor intensive. Like, you have to get the tree and get the bark off, and then you have to soak it in salt water, in regular water, and then you have to beat it for several rounds. And then once it gets dried, then you start to kind of put different patterns on it. So it's very, very difficult and long process. So I really appreciate people who are doing it still, and group of women who actually came together to make this kapa pau skirts for the hula dancers at the Merry Monarch Festival. So that was quite a special thing to see as well. So and this is one of the ways to preserve culture, and this is why, maybe one of the reasons why I studied social and visual anthropology. So in the future, already now, I've been taking different bits and pieces here and there, and I know for sure if I get back home this summer to Estonia and my grandmother is still alive, I'm going to take several days when I'm going to sit with my camera and with my grandmother and just let her talk. Because with our grandmothers and grandfathers, the stories of our times are going down. So this is just even for my own record or archives if I don't do anything with it. But I got so clear about that. So and this morning I went to a very beautiful morning talk with a really nice young man. Let's see if I find it. It's all a mess here. But so he's Jason Syme, and I actually bought his book as well, Self-Care Hacks. And without knowing me, his signature said, "Crystal, keep moving forward." That's a good one. So, I mean, God, I could make thousands of these kind of books out of my blogs only. It's like amazing that people are kind of putting things together. Just $10, very inspirational young man story. So I didn't unfortunately manage to see his movie How to Run 100 Miles, but I will look it up, and wow, quite a passion this guy has. And his story from growing up in difficult family, and then how he managed to get through this, and then with like different siblings, six there were 6 of them in the family, and single mother was raising them. It's like, wow, amazing. So, and so after a while, he started to actually work in the politics, and then after some time figured out like, oh my God, I'm so overweight, and started to look into different options. Did the first hot yoga class and got really kind of like kicked in a good way. Lost like 75 pounds working on this for so many years, and then started to actually also kind of learn more yoga, and now has been actually traveling the world teaching yoga, is coaching people. And actually what was really cool during the breakfast talk was that people were asking him if he would like to, or has been thinking of running for president. So yeah, why not? Like, such a young man, full of passion, and so many good stories and things to do. So why not? So way to go. I made also some notes from the morning gathering. So so for him, in his life, what was really inspiring was actually when adults were telling him that you can't do something. And in my life, that has been a case too. Like, I could actually write down all of those times when people told me, no, Crystal, you can't do it, or that's like not possible. And then I proved them otherwise. That has been one of the biggest motivators actually in my life too. I remember one time I was in South Africa. I was finishing my bachelor's degree, and one of the professors told me, Crystal, you should not think about master's degree, are you? And I didn't say anything, but actually I already knew that I got into a master's program in Tromsø at that time, so that was kind of funny. And then 6 months later, or 8 months later, I showed up and showed him my very first tea movie from Norway, and the first documentary we did. And he was very quiet. And I so loved it. So I love to surprise people, and when they challenge me, I'm actually very grateful, because without him, I wouldn't have pushed myself, maybe even kind of thought some other thoughts. So I also like that he said that we all have a right to shine. I totally agree. And I loved how he was telling a story, how he was like kind of looking up, came to information that in Jakarta they are looking for some people for yoga teachers. And then he had even no clue where that was on the map, knew no one there, just showed up and started to teach yoga. It's like, wow. And I was amazed how like, wow, everyone was in the audiences, like, oh my God, I have like thousands of stories like that. I haven't been telling them like through movies or books and stuff. Like, it's about time, Crystal, get your act together, you know. So, and then someone was asking like, who has been your biggest mentor or supporter? So he said his mom, and also that mom's courage feeds him, that every time when he gets to a low point, a weak moment, then he thinks about it. It's like, wow, I have no right to like complain. And then one other thing, he when he was a kid, he was dyslexic, and oftentimes like kind of started to repeat it. Oh, I can't do this or that or whatever. And then one of the people in the political campaign was telling that you are the most talented, organized person. Just quit saying that. So he did. So and has been working with Tony Robbins stuff, studied how to become a nutritionist so he can help people to work with their wellness better. And I also loved what he said, that everyone is different. You can't like build one program for everyone because everyone's body is different. So, and yeah, so he had a knee problem, but he worked through it so he could do that 100-mile run thing. And then someone in the audience said like, oh my God, I have also a knee problem, so what can I do? So yeah, I need to start the car. I'm like about to, like no air. So so he answered, yeah, it's about, stretching and figuring out where this weakness is coming and then supporting your body. And usually the knee problems may also be a sign that something is out of balance, and maybe, you have been putting too much pressure on the right side of your body in general. I would say even like, the masculine and feminine are probably out of whack. So on that level, it's really cool to look at it from different perspectives. And this person who had a knee trouble there went away like totally inspired. So, and another thing, when he was signing my book and I had to run to the next movie, what I like about these filmmakers here, or meeting with them or the characters from the movies, is that they are so down to earth. They are so like, connecting. He was saying, so I told like a couple words, hey, I'm a filmmaker myself from Estonia, living here. I feel very inspired by your story. Thank you very much, and thank you for your book as well. And then he said, yeah, so interesting. Like, by the end of the book, I have my details. Like, please keep in touch, take contact and stuff. It's like, wow. I remember those film festivals I went to in Tromsø. Like, I could never ever get that close and personal with any of those filmmakers who were there to ask questions, like maybe one or two. But the rest were like, I don't know, they felt so arrogant and in their kind of, oh, I did it kind of thing. So this way, I really like that Ocean Film Festival here in Waimea has that morning kind of setting where you can go and listen and get very personal with the filmmakers or people who are behind the movies. So very, very grateful. So this morning we had really amazing person introducing the Dolphin Reef movie. And I, as a mermaid, I have seen lots of dolphin reef movies. So kind of dolphins and reefs and ocean and all kinds of animals and so on. So wasn't really so much like new stuff for me, but I loved how the story was put together. It was very like emotional almost, and how one dolphin is connected to everyone and everything kind of. And the person who was telling the story or kind of answering the question was Paul Baribault, who is a vice president at Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, and he leads studio marketing operations and strategy for Pixar Animation Studios and Disney Animation Studios films. So he didn't really know many answers about like different like dolphin questions, but he knew generally, how the whole thing came together. They traveled all over the world to get different footage and stuff. So very personal, very, very cool stuff. And let me see my notes, what I have here. So all in all, if I take all the movies together from day one till now, day 4, number one message has been everything is connected, everyone has to cooperate. And this is whether you are a spider or a dolphin or a piece of grass, we are all connected. And once we really start to understand this and act from that, then everything will change. So that was a really cool kind of reminder. Also, this movie was all about teamwork. I didn't know, for example, that when whales, even when you have a couple has formed itself already. You know, you have the mama whale and the baby whale, and then the male who is kind of going to accompany them during the trip back to the polar waters and stuff. And they were in trouble because orcas were coming to actually attack and get the baby whale. So they were asking for help from other whales, and other whales came all the way to help and prevent the orcas to eat the baby whale. So and the same, I knew that dolphin pods have different dolphin pods, and they can actually also start to like fight with each other, but kind of seeing it, like how rough they are with each other, was like quite a surprise, like really, like, you know, attacking and like biting each other and stuff, you know. So that was kind of like aha as well. And I didn't also know that there is a special type of medicinal coral for dolphins when they have their skin cut, so that they rub themselves or kind of slide over it, so that it is kind of their like pharmacy. So that was a really cool thing too. And the baby dolphins actually may have lots of trouble. It's like so much to learn, and also you know, to figure out how it all kind of works takes quite a bit out of them. And then to be protected by the whole pod all the time, and without the pod they are basically very few chances are there for them to survive. So that was cool to see. And I also loved the way they actually talked about sharks, that, you know, sharks are one really important part of the reef, you know, health. That sharks are actually getting out at night to kind of cleanse, kind of take away the weak ones or the ones who are sick. So it's like a really important balance they are working on the reefs, and oftentimes they are not presented as such. So it's really cool. And they even showed how a dolphin was saving a little sea creature. That was really cool. So, and yeah, so that was that. Yeah, so dolphins have a super important community structure. So that's really how they work together, help each other. And this movie, Dolphin Reef, took 3 to 4 years to make, so quite a process for them. So many of the movies were shown in Parker School Theatre, which was actually built in the 1920s mostly for ranch workers and people there, like, to come and entertain themselves. It accompanies 280 people. It's a really old style, kind of from, if I remember correct, from the same time as Aloha Theatre in South Kona. So it's really quite special kind of atmosphere there. But it doesn't have any like air conditioning, only like 2 openings on both sides of the building. So sometimes if you go there, you should take your blanket with you, which I did. So I didn't get cold, which they actually also had some extra blankets there. So fun story about that. And they have renovated it several times. So it's like kind of like a cultural center for Waimea. One of the last ones I saw was Tales by Light, Dillon River, which is an award-winning Aboriginal filmmaker and photographer, largely self-taught. River comes from a family of storytellers and filmmakers. His grandmother, Freda Glynn, was one of the founders of the Central Australian Aboriginal Media Association. Inspired by his grandmother's work, Dillon's mission is to find examples of living Aboriginal culture. So one thing which I noticed with that movie was that actually more and more over the years, at least the last years, I've been seeing like the latest documentaries, whatever their kind of focus is, we see more and more that the filmmakers are going in front of the lens. So I think this is also kind of reflecting how in these times where we are going now, we are going to be more like kind of participants of the processes, not just the observers, and we have kind of more to say, which is really cool in so many ways. But on the other hand, if it's not done right, it can kind of be like, me, selfie kind of culture type of thing, which wasn't the case with Dylan. Dylan did it in a very nice way, very kind of humble, very interested, very curious, and was on the sideline, but still kind of shared his own, voice and message with it, which I totally get as well. He was really inspired by his grandmother and doing the work trying to preserve culture, and I so get it while I'm here in Hawaii, where I see studying now hula with a teacher who is actually having trouble because very many Hawaiians are not interested to dance hula anymore. And I'm so crazy about hula. I could do it every day, knits and things and details and nuts and bolts to get to the core of it, how this is done and why, and the whole spectrum of the whole thing. So if no one is going to teach it further to people who are interested, then it's going to be a lost knowledge. So this is really cool. He was traveling to some faraway places from his home area and was basically trying to capture and preserve some of those stories and cultural details. So really, really cool. And it's really important also just to remember also that we are not here just to take whatever, whether it's people or nature. We are here also to preserve and give back to nature or people or whoever it is. So, and when we lose our stories, we lose our culture. And that's a thought-provoking thing, we don't really maybe think about it, but yeah, do you know all the stories your grandmother had in her or grandfather? If they are passed away, do you know the stories of your mom or dad, what they told them? And if not, what can you do to preserve those stories for the future generations? That's a good question. So, and then so that was very inspiring to see Australia, because Alice Springs is a place where I went in 2008. I also hiked in Kings Canyon. I slept under the stars in Kings Canyon. We were trying to learn how to use the didgeridoo, and I had a blast. That was one of the most amazing trips I've ever done in my life, and also going around Uluru, walking around Uluru, and then taking a Harley Davidson trip around Uluru. So it's really cool to see these movies because it also brings back so many memories from my own world adventures. Really, really cool. And the last one, which was I didn't really plan it, but it was in the segment, so I was oh, what the heck. It was called Young Sea, Mattias A. Klum from Sweden, and National Geographic photographer Mattias A. Klum follows the cycle of seasons around the beautiful yet also threatened inland Baltic Sea. In this quiet film, The Young Sea shows the hidden life of the extraordinary species that live in the Baltic Sea, a unique place that, as filmmaker notes, is worth fighting to save, to pass to future generations as a vibrant living place. And as someone born by the Baltic Sea, what I really wished was that he would have shown the map where the Baltic Sea is, because so many people here in America have no idea. So where it is, how it's all looking and so on. So and I didn't know that there are around 90 million people living around Baltic Sea. That's a huge amount of people. And Baltic Sea is actually one of the most polluted seas in the world. I didn't see that as well, or know that as well. So what's really interesting is that all the Baltic Sea is surrounded by so many different countries, and so many human habitat is happening around. So that's affecting it so hugely. So I learned about some water creatures, some which I know, but some which I didn't know about. So like one of the little parts of the, I think it was close to Gotland or somewhere there, where limestone actually used to be old coral reef, and now it's limestone. It's like, wow, we are so connected. Like, I had no idea. So, and then also how rivers and lakes actually are connected to the seawater, and how this is actually influencing, our seawaters. So that's really cool as well. Had really interesting pictures and visuals about frogs mating with each other. And then also talking about how the chemicals we release into the water is actually influencing the whole Baltic Sea, and there are areas where there is 30% of the seabed in Baltic Sea is already completely dead zone, so that's no good. So and one of the big issues is also the oxygenation, and the oxygen doesn't get to places anymore, and that's very crucial. So, and then of course in around the area of Baltic Sea we have lots of connected places and spots where you can actually really feel how it was to have ice age there. Even in Estonia we have big rocks in the middle of the forest which are from that time. And so there were the birds which looked like penguins, but they were not like penguins. So which was really interesting is that they are not commonly kind of connected to penguins. They have just a similar way of life, which was also really interesting from the evolution aspect. So, and once again, everything is connected. We are dependent on nature. Nature is dependent on us. And really important things like he was also bringing out in Poland there are areas where you have 40 meters of sand dunes which are actually traveling 10 meters per year. It's really fascinating thing. And also there are fishes called pipefish, which are kind of like from the seahorse family. I've never seen them, but of course I haven't really, it's really hard to see anything very much in the Baltic Sea. It's just so murky most of the time. And so basically his message with this movie was to, be more aware of the products you're using when you are, in your everyday life. What can you choose? What can you do differently? And for me, that this was the last movie of my whole, 4-day film marathon was kind of interesting because, seeing all these like corals and like exotic things and exotic ocean movies and so on, and then finalize with Baltic Sea, which actually some of the shots which were taken underwater with some of the seaweed and clearer waters and stuff, it was really beautiful. And I can imagine from someone from here who has never been to Baltics can be very exotic as well. And I also understood like how for granted I've taken my little sea, when I was growing up, my dad always took me to sail in Pärnu, and then I really grew into loving sea and everything to do with water, and we were living by the river, so we were all the time connected to the water somehow, and also connected to the bigger oceans. So It's really important that we are aware of the water inside us, outside of us, and then how we all connected and how and what we can do to preserve it the best way we can. So this was Christopher Laksmi-Ditton from Waimea Film Festival. I hope you really enjoyed all these stories and my travels through the movies. And if you can, look them up and check them out. So all the best to you and see you soon. Mahalo.